All right, so in this video, we're going to have a look at the Deputy integration with Buildxact. We'll have a look at the overview and just get an idea of all the moving parts. We'll go through the connection. We'll go through linking Buildxact jobs to Deputy. That's mainly useful so that Deputy knows what cost categories, what jobs exist, and how to map it back to Buildxact. We'll have a look at getting timesheets back to Buildxact, and there's two different sync options, basic and advanced, and we'll cover both of those. So next slide here. This is just an overview of the process between Buildxact and Deputy. I'm going to go through the main flow of it, and then we'll get into details after this. So step one is the process starts when a job is created in Buildxact. Inside that job, there'll be cost categories. And when those things happen, when the job is created and those things are set up, you will have the option to push that stuff into Deputy. The reason I phrase it as the option is my preference is to say, hey, Buildxact, push this stuff into Deputy, and it creates it for you. However, if you prefer, you can create these things in Deputy and then map them back to Buildxact. Now, for the sake of translation, what Buildxact calls a job, Deputy calls a location, and what Buildxact calls a cost category, Deputy calls an area. So it's really just you're creating the equivalent thing in Deputy from Buildxact. Now, in Deputy, the staff, you will have to go through and put a pay rate against people, and you'd have some controls in Deputy also around where people work, and that just helps them put timesheets to the right jobs. Those timesheets will then get done and approved, and once the approval happens, we then pull the data back from Deputy to Buildxact in one of two ways. The first option is that basic sync we touched on right at the very start. That way, if you're using that, what it does is just adds a work order automatically. It syncs every hour with Deputy to pull this data, adds a work order automatically into the right job and category, but it adds it as a new line. So you don't get to, I suppose, match those to exact line items in Buildxact. Advanced sync, this is where you are presented with a list of all the timesheets in Deputy, and in Buildxact you go and basically tell it, hey, it's this job and this area, and honestly it should know that stuff a good portion of the time anyway, depending on how you've set it up. And then you get the option of mapping it to a specific line, which is just kind of more exact. There's pros and cons to both ways, and I'll cover them both and you can see which suits you. But yeah, there are two options to pull that data back. Side note, Deputy can connect with accounting systems. I'm not really going to touch on that in any huge amount of detail, but really just to say that it is an option if you're interested. Awesome. So let's go get into my Buildxact account over here once I can find it. There we are. And the first thing to talk about is the integration itself. So I'm going to go to integrations, and I've got Deputy here. I'm going to go and click connect over on the right. It wants to know which business in Deputy you're talking about in the case that you have a few. I'm going to say yes, allow access. And that's just you saying I allow Deputy to and Buildxact to talk in terms of locations and timesheets so this process can happen. Awesome. So that connection's done. I'm going to click on configure settings and just point out that as I've kind of touched on already, there's two different sync types, basic and advanced. And I'm going to start with basic, then we'll come back into advanced shortly. So the next big thing is, how do you link a Buildxact job to Deputy? Now there's two ways of doing this. The first option is my preference. You go into the job itself, and down on the job details screen, there'll be a integrations option, and you say, let's go do this, create location. What that will do is push the location across to Deputy. There it goes. And if I flip over to my Deputy account under locations, it's basically just adding into locations on this screen. Going back, I have the option to go manage areas. And what this is doing is literally just working out which of the cost categories in Buildxact need to show up in Deputy. And for what it's worth, I try and keep this really simple so that the guys on site don't have as many options to scroll through. So I'm going to say, like right now, I'm just interested in floor covering and close, and that's what's being pushed into Deputy. When we get to the advanced sync option, I'll talk about how you can do that process in bulk, like across multiple jobs at once. But as mentioned, this way I find easier, and it's my preference. Awesome. So how do we get the timesheets back from Deputy? Well, as part of that, we need to look at how timesheets get entered into Deputy and also the pay rates of the people. So I'll touch on this. I'm in Deputy and I'm in the profile of one of my employees, whose name is John. Under their details, you have a pay details area, and by default, these are all zeros. So a really important point is when you're adding new employees, make sure you put their pay rates in. Otherwise, you'll get a whole bunch of timesheets returned to Buildxact with no money in them. So definitely worth a mention on that one. And then if I save that, get back to the other screen. As far as how you do timesheets, I'm not going to go through this in a whole bunch of detail because there's multiple ways you can do this. Option one is you can go timesheets and you can add them from the desktop version. That's more useful if you're the supervisor or the manager, or you're the owner of the company and you're putting timesheets in for people. However, Deputy has its own phone app and Buildxact has a whole help article on how to use it. Personal preference, I really like the phone app and I find it a lot cleaner because it allows your employees, very much in the same way as the Buildxact timesheet app works, it allows your employees to go and put their own time in and select the areas, add notes, etc. Righto, so once you've got approved timesheets, and I've got a whole bunch there, using the basic sync method, we really don't need to do anything. It's going to sync every hour on that basic method. If you want to hurry it up, you can go sync now, and it, as it says on the label, will do that connection and just pull all the data across. What I'm going to do though is go into one of my jobs, which is this one, and we're going to have a look at a timesheet I pulled over earlier. So it'll go under work orders. You know it's from Deputy because it says Deputy on most things. So I'll go into this one. And a couple of points. When it pulls it in, it actually creates the contact in Buildxact if they don't exist for your employee. It pulls it back with the net number of hours and it has a date on for the timesheet, which is really handy. A point here is that if the person made notes when they were doing their timesheet, which I didn't in this case, which was an oversight, the notes show up here on the instructions. And there's a special note to if you're doing cost plus jobs. I mean, it's handy to have notes here anyway, but if you're doing cost plus jobs, check out the cost plus video. There's a way to get these notes onto the actual customer's invoices as well. Awesome. Now, if I go to the actual costings, you'll see the same thing. It's dropped the cost in there. And as mentioned, the basic sync just adds them from scratch like this. So you will get a whole bunch of lines with the person's name, the date, and the net total of that cost. Now, flipping over to the advanced option, we're going to cover two things at once actually here. Let's go switch it over to advanced. And then this cost method, you can use either or for either basic or advanced, but the main point is just what is the difference. So base cost just pulls whatever the person's pay rate is from Deputy. Deputy, as we saw a second ago, works off public holiday rates over time. There's a whole bunch of different ways it can calculate. When we are pulling it back, it's just looking at the cost in Deputy, that person's pay rate. There is an on-cost option where you can add additional money to each shift. This is something you can set up per job in Deputy, and if you're so inclined, if you're interested, Deputy has articles on it. The only difference is we're pulling back the higher cost versus what the actual person costs you per hour. So let's go Advanced Sync, and when you're using Advanced Sync, it's going to tell you to go to Imported Timesheets, which is under Jobs. in here. And here's a few example ones I did earlier. As mentioned, because we've linked it to deputy with the right job in the right areas, generally it will know where it's putting it. I created this quite a while ago, so it doesn't really know which job and category, so I'm going to show you the full process. And then as a side point, you can go settings if you want and go manage locations and areas. And this is how you do it in bulk. So this is the equivalent of looking at one job at a time, but the difference is it's all the jobs and all the areas and a summary of what everything's linked to. You can click those little dots and manage the areas in the exact same way as you can per job. All right, so let's actually push these through. Let's go, this one goes to Dan's Kitchen, to the category and to the item. And let's put it to flooring actually. So in this case, I'm gonna go, let's put it, what have I got here? Carpenter to lay floor, new underlay, let's put it to there. And as mentioned, one of the biggest differences between this and the basic sync is being able to attribute it to a single line, not just a category. That said, if you choose not to put it to an item, it's going to add just as a new line like we looked at a second ago into that category. So you do have the choice, and it's very much personal preference how much you're drilling down into where these dollars are getting allocated to. Awesome. Let's go create the work order, and it disappears. It's now been added into that job and into the right cost category. Now that's a bit of a long video, but it's explaining a whole bunch of different things about how we connect with Deputy and how it works. As always, if you've got questions, let us know, and we'll leave you to it. Thank you.